Hi, I'm Nicole from My Carolina Garden. As garden lovers and plant lovers, I am sure we can all agree that getting free plants or even making our own free plants is awesome. So today I want to show you some plants that I'm propagating so that I can have more goodies. And I'm going to take it one step further because propagating's awesome, but I think propagating plants in water is even more awesome. My favorite technique for propagating is in water in glass jars. What I like to do is take my cuttings, put them into a glass jar full of water. I label them with a name and a date so I know exactly when I started my propagation progress. So then I get to be a keen observer at exactly when the roots are forming. Today I want to show you 5 outdoor plants that I am propagating inside over winter in glass jars. So the first plant I want to show you is Cordyline. So Cordyline can be an outdoor plant all year through if your temperatures don't drop below 50 degrees. But in my zone 8A/B, even though I am in a warmer climate, I do have to bring my Cordyline indoors or put it in the greenhouse for safety for overwintering. So this year, I was loving my fuchsia color of my Cordyline. I've had it for probably 4 years now, and it is big and beautiful inside a huge pot that I keep out by my pool. So I decided that I wanted even more Cordyline in my life because I can put it into many pots and arrangements all over the place. And the gorgeous fuchsia color is just so outstanding. I absolutely adore it. So every single thing I'm going to show you today is simply by taking cuttings directly from your parent plant and putting them into water. It is so simple. So my Cordyline, all I did was take some little snippets of the stem. It looks just like this, not too complicated at all, and simply dropped it into my water. Now this looks like I'm about 5 or 6 weeks into these particular roots that you see in this jar. I also cut some larger stems of the Cordyline just to see if the larger ones versus the smaller ones made any sort of a difference. And I can see that my larger stems, while they are beginning to show roots, is taking longer to make that happen. By the time the process is all done, I did wonder if I was going to be ahead of the game though with the larger cuttings making larger plants. So we will see about that. So you may have noticed that I am inside of a bathtub right now. I have this garden tub in my master bathroom that no one ever uses, and it happens to have a huge window, and all the plants that I have love being here. So if I don't feel comfortable leaving things in the greenhouse, or maybe I don't have room for them out there, I grow things in my garden tub. So just being honest with you. The next plant I want to show you is the snake plant. Snake plant I absolutely adore. Once again, you can have it growing outside, but it really doesn't like temperatures below 50 degrees. That being the case, you either take it inside, or a lot of people actually use the snake plant just as a house plant. It is an air purifier, and of course it has a really awesome unique look with its spiky kind of sturdy leaves. Well, my snake plant, I had only bought one original plant, probably spent $40 or so on it. I have divided that up many times. Now, one of the ways you can propagate a snake plant is simply by dividing the plant up and then putting that division with its roots right into soil and getting a brand new plant. This is one of them that I made. However, as I mentioned, I really do love rooting plants in water. So the snake plant, also quite easy to do. When you take a piece of the snake plant, just a simple cutting will do. Let's see if I have a good example here. I have so many roots now, I don't want to break anything trying to take it out. Maybe out of this one. I had this branch right here. This piece of snake plant, I just cut right along the bottom. It had no roots at all. I was able to take this, simply put it into water. It began to root, and then it also began to grow pups. So now I have a whole brand new plant that could go inside dirt if I wish. Now, to root a snake plant in water, one of the rules that I have always followed is putting stones at the bottom of your jar. And that is so that the cut frond from the plant doesn't directly touch the bottom of the glass jar. Instead, it's able to kind of be up a little up higher, and then the roots begin to come down to where the rocks are. So I have had major success growing my snake plants directly in jars of water. Something that I would like to point out with the snake plant and other plants as well when you're rooting them in water. A lot of people do worry that the plant is going to suffer from root rot or get too soggy or mushy. And let me just explain one little thing, especially about the snake plant. The snake plant, if the soil it's sitting in is damp all the time and it doesn't get proper air circulation, it will get root rot and you will see the fronds start to turn to mush. However, if you put it in water and you're changing your water out weekly so that the plant is receiving a sufficient amount of oxygen inside the water, that is actually going to keep the plant very healthy. So I know it can sound very confusing, but it's the soggy soil part that is more likely to rot a plant when the plant is able to root itself in water. Does that make sense? I hope it does, because that was a lesson I learned with my snake plant. The next outdoor plant that I propagate is called the purple heart. So the purple heart is something I've talked about in the past. It is sort of a succulent style plant where if you break off any of the stems, you can then put the stems into soil or water and they will take root. I have the purple heart everywhere in my yard. It does grow as a perennial for me, again in zone 8A/B, but it does die back in the winter and then starts anew. I am able to take cuttings, as I said, root them in soil or in water. This plant can be kept indoors or put in the ground. So very versatile and extremely easy to grow. When you just take your simple clippings, just by breaking the stem and placing it in water, this is what you end up with. I have a beautiful root system happening here. And as you can also see, I have little pups growing right out of the root area. So this is going to turn into a huge bushy plant as long as I give it plenty of soil, plenty of sun, and plenty of water, and it stays beautifully for me out in containers, especially in my pool area. The next plant I want to show you, so many of us have. It is the begonia. Now the begonia is really hardy in zones 9+ in terms of staying as a perennial, but a lot of us get to enjoy the begonia as an annual anyway. One of the really nice things about a begonia is the cane style begonia. That is the one that has a regular looking root ball with thin roots that come off of it. They could be called wax begonia, sometimes angel wing begonia. Those you can cut the stems of and root the stems right in water. My example here happens to be one that I'm keeping indoors, but it is a type of cane begonia, and I have another one here as well. And this one I started just 1 month ago, and these are the beautiful roots that are on it. So this is the polka dot begonia. I absolutely adore this plant because I love the polka dots. But since we were talking about outdoor plants, this is part of my begonia from outside that I just took cuttings of the other day. So I do not have any roots on it yet, but it is going to follow that same process. So I just simply took small cuttings, left only about 2 leaves on the top, and you can take them off if you want to as well, but I happen to just leave those on. And then I will get roots on those in about 4 weeks. Now, especially if these plants are only going to be annuals for us, isn't it fabulous to just make our own? Save a little bit of money. So the 5th plant I want to show you that I am rooting in water is the oyster plant or boat lily. There are a lot of different names for this kind of plant. I had this outside next to my pool and it was looking so beautiful. And the reason I love it is because of the variegated leaves and then the purple that shows underneath. So this plant likes to be out in the sun. It is a warm climate plant. So it wasn't going to stay for me outside in the landscape. So I dug it up. Now this plant grows plenty of pups all on its own. And in fact, if it gets to stay in its warm climate, it becomes a very beautiful ground cover. But for me, as I said, it wasn't going to survive outdoors. The other nice thing about this plant is you don't have to just take it out of the ground, divide it up and put it into soil. You can also root from cuttings. So this cutting I have here is my oyster plant, and it's looking pretty good. And in fact, I saw somebody else make a video about a table centerpiece that is like an aquatic kind of centerpiece made with just this plant, and then putting like lava stones on the bottom of it, and the roots just begin to like flow around the lava stones. So that might be something I'm doing in the future, because this plant I am just adoring. It is easy to care for. As I said, all of these things are essentially annuals for a lot of folks, unless you live in a warm climate. So being able to make our own annuals, save a few dollars, this may even be able to turn into a gift for somebody. I am all about all of that. All of the plants I showed you really begin to root in about 4 weeks in water. As I said, this is mainly where I like to store my plants. So they are just getting some afternoon sun here, but it is essentially always bright. It is morning here right now, and you can see there's a good amount of light coming in. So hopefully I've shown you some plants that you would like to propagate as well. I am starting to do a lantana. I just took these cuttings recently though, and I'm also going to try hibiscus and bougainvillea. So those are all going to be things that we could talk about in the future, and we will see how they work out. Thank you so much for watching, and happy planting.